Good evening and welcome to the Radical Race Series Round 1, brought to you live by JPBroadcasting. I am James Parfitt, and in the booth tonight is going to be Ewan O'Leary. There you go, there are our sexy pictures at the bottom of your screen for you to tell us who we are and what we're going to be bringing you the series. So we are here at launching round 1 from Spa Francorchamps circuit in Belgium. Track length 6.93 kilometers. I will point out, it was pointed out to me the other day, is actually 7.1 kilometers. But, we go by the information we're given. So, we're going to go with 6.93. Currently set in Francorchamps, just in the country of Belgium. And we've got the Grand Prix pits for you this evening as well. So make sure you stay tuned in for that. So what the format tonight, you've got 10-minute qualifying or 3 laps. And then we have a 10-lap race, sprint style race here from Spa. So what are we going to be doing tonight when we're in the SR10? 2,261 cc, 425 brake horsepower, and a 380 pound-foot turbocharged engine with direct injection, twin independent variable cam timing, and drive-by-wire throttle. What more can you ask for here this evening as well, apart from an absolute epic car we have? So I think it's about time we brought Ewan into the booth. Ewan, good evening, young sir. How are you?
Doing very well, thanks. Very excited to get a new season underway. I think in the few seasons that I've done so far, the previous one was probably the best of the 3 that I've done so far. Luke Maxwell ending up on top, but only by 6 points ahead of Simon Edwards by the end. It was very, very exciting. It came down to the very final race at the Nordschleife, and we may well see something similar once again, because we're finishing at the Nordschleife once again as well in 12 weeks' time. So very much looking forward to being here over the next few weeks or so. And these radicals always provide great racing. So it's a very, very good championship to be a part of, and I'm very glad to be watching it here tonight.
Exactly, the schedule we've got for you guys this week, 12-week schedule. We kick off this week in Spa, 10 laps, and then we go to the Okayama full circuit for a 16-lap race there on the 22nd. And rounding out September is the Interlagos Grand Prix, one of, if not my favourite circuits. I love Interlagos. And we go there for a 16-lap race. We'll bring you more of the schedule next week, guys. At the end of the day, we will run you through all of them, when and where we'll do it for the beginning of each month. So don't forget, guys, as well, what they do here on the Radical Race Series is we sponsor a charity for each season. And this season is the Mast Cell Action Charity. Mast cell activation syndrome affects 1 in 300,000 people and forms part of a spectrum of mast cell disorders. People with MCAS suffer from inappropriately triggered inflammation leading to a wide range of symptoms, namely anaphylaxis, a life-threatening allergic reaction. I can go for that one myself, being allergic to bee stings and having to carry around EpiPens left, right and centre. MKS can often take over 5 years to diagnose due to the complexity of the diagnosis procedure. Mast cell action aims to reduce this by 3 years to just 2, allowing treatment to begin at an early stage. So if you're interested there, all the links are down in the YouTube description. The donation there is linked as well. So that is Mast cell Action, our charity of the season, and worthwhile, as I say, because I do carry my own EpiPens, being allergic to bee stings, and I was wonderfully told here, Ewan, by my doctor, I've had 2 reactions, I need to wait for a 3rd one before I can have an EpiPen. So what he's saying basically is, excuse me, Mr. Parfitt, you've had 2 already, but until you keel over and on the floor and have an anaphylactic shock, we can't give you another one. Seems crazy. You know what I mean?
Very helpful. But no, it's great to support a charity here on the Radical Race Series. Of course, again, we always do it every season, and this is the one we've gone for this season. So great to be able to support a charity throughout the season as well, because while we're having fun, we're supporting a good cause as well. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, it always is. And, what more could you ask for than a good old charity to support as well. So if you are here, guys, welcome in. Mike Buson, thank you so much there as well. Damien G joining us in chat. Colin Wynn, evening all, and our very own Davil Taylor, good evening to you, young sir. Don't forget as well, we are broadcasting on the Radical Race Series YouTube channel. You can head over to there at the same time, and you know, we're over there or on the JPB YouTube channel as well. So much love to everybody that's here. If you are here for the first time, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and turn on the bells for all those notifications, because that is the most important thing. Right, let's get over to some of the action at the moment, and as we can see here as well, Simon Edwards putting in a 2:08.96 currently, Ewan, and I think that's going to be a good old time to try and beat for these drivers, because they, you know, it's a tough circuit, Spa. It's one of them circuits that you're either going to love or you're going to hate. You know, most drivers love it. In the SR10, it's a little bit more difficult, but going round in anything less than a 2:10 is an exceptional drive.
Yeah, I think a lot of these drivers will be enjoying themselves out there today, at least. But I don't know how many of them have really been able to hook up a lap around here. You've been able to see there with the lap times over 2 minutes around here. It's not a short circuit, about 7 kilometres, as we said, and it's a long way. There's a lot of places for you to just go a little bit wide for you to lose that little bit of time. But in the same vein, in the race, there's a lot of places where you can make up some time if you've got a bit of a deficit to carry forward. So it's just one of those circuits, one of those that you've got to get through. And I do feel like the opening race of the season is always the most chaotic in terms of just getting to the end of it. We saw Road Atlanta opening off of season 3 of 2022. It was, you know, upwards of 30 cars. It's not a big circuit, and it was a very difficult race for everybody, just in terms of getting around and getting through that one. So you get the feeling that it's going to be similar here today. I'm especially concerned about that run up towards Le Combe for the first time, because there's a lot of slipstream as you go up there, and there's not a lot of room when you actually get down into the corner. That's where the real action point is going to be on the opening lap. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the things with this circuit, and I love that run down El Rouge Radion and all the way down to Le Combe. But the problem is these radicals, and I've been in this car this week, and I've driven Spa, and I will say, if you're not careful, it does go very, very light at the top of the hill on lap 1. So they will have to be immensely careful on lap 1, because it does not sit well going up and down that hill, and I think these drivers are going to have to be extra careful. And with the whole changes that have come out, the new setup changes and everything to the Radical as well, you know, braking has changed. I've gone from a completely different braking point heading down into Le Combe than I did last year, Ewan, and I think, you know, they've changed quite a lot on this car, and I think it's going to take quite a bit of getting used to from these drivers. Yes, also to kind of piggyback onto the back of the point I was making about round 1, this is what makes round 1 so difficult as well. We've had obviously the new season coming in now in our racing, season 4, the final one for 2022, and it means there's been a few changes with regards to, you know, lots of different things, but especially with the new car as well. We've only had 12 races in this series now in this car, compared to the amount that we had in the previous one. You know, many races. Everybody was really able to get a good setup down. They were able to get over that car very nicely. They knew what they were doing, but still there's an element of unknown when we're in this car, and there's a number of circuits on the calendar this season that we haven't been to so far, like Fuji, for example, which has not been in our racing for very long, of course. So that'll be a new one. Mid-Ohio, talking to some drivers when the schedule came out, some of the drivers don't reckon it's ever been on Radical, at least not for a few years anyway, never mind a few seasons. So that'll be a new challenge as well. There's a lot of unknowns heading towards this new season, but that makes it all the more entertaining. So we'll see how they get on with the first qualifying session of the year, as we're just beginning right now. Yeah, absolutely, Paul Crabber. Just venturing out into qualifying. If I put you on the spot, Ewan, and said to you, right, one track this season that you're most looking forward to in this 12-week schedule, what would you tell me? It's got to be, well, for me anyway, it's maybe not going to be for the drivers, but for me it has to be Le Mans. seeing it on here. Only a 6-lap race, of course, but it's such a long circuit, such a difficult circuit as well. But what makes it so different, of course, is just not only the length, but the long Mulsanne straight, the way the field is going to stay close and packed up together through there. We're going to see some absolutely fantastic racing at Le Mans, and I absolutely can't wait for that at round 4, the early part of October. It's going to be an unbelievable race, but I'm not sure how much these drivers are looking forward to, because to be honest, the practice, it's not the most interesting circuit in the world, if I'm honest. To practice on Le Mans is a little bit boring.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's so long, and I think it reminds me of just one big draft fest after another, because they've got the Mulsanne straights. And you're drafting down there, and you're overtaking going into the chicane. Then you go around the other end, and you get drafted back the other way. And that's the thing with that circuit, isn't it? Because of the draft section of the circuit, it kind of reminds me of a race where you've kind of almost like the Nordschleife, where you've got to wait to almost the last lap, the last possible straight that you can get on before you make your move. Because if you take it too early, somebody's going to be coming down behind you if they're right close to you.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's one of those that you have to play a bit differently. What we're going to see at Spa here today, even you do sometimes see a bit of waiting around here, but for the most part, a circuit's like, let's use it Okayama as an example. That won't be one where you're waiting around. You'll be going all out from start to finish there. It's so different because at Le Mans or the Nordschleife, you're capable of overtaking the car in front, but it's not the best idea to do so sometimes. And it's a very confusing mentality to kind of get your head around, and very difficult thing to get your head around. You need to get patience on your side in that case to really figure that one out. So yeah, it's very difficult, and it's going to be a difficult race, but in a different way to some of the others, where you're going to have to be pushing all race and just trying to get away from some of the cars behind. So yeah, it's a good schedule, and very much looking forward to the races as they unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the interesting one for me is, having driven the Fuji, the GP circuit in a GT3, don't get me wrong, completely different to these. I am fully aware of that. But I think that one in the Radical could be absolutely epic. And I think Fuji GP in the Radical, and I'm probably not going to be popular here, so please don't be sending me DMs telling me, James, what are you talking about? I'm aware. I think Fuji in the Radical could be absolutely amazing. Right, guys, a lot of these drivers, 6.5 minutes remaining of quali, have completed their out laps, and they are now on their fast lap. So we will keep an eye on the times. They are coming in thick and fast at the end of the lap, so be aware the board will flicker around quite a lot on the left-hand side. So just wait as much as we can for these to come in currently as well. Paul Clark seems to be on a flyer at the moment in Sector 1, 35.79, fastest man overall. Paul Crabb in Sector 2, you can see the purples on the bottom of the screen, 32.02. Mike Bousson, Sector 3, 22.27, and Simon Edwards in Sector 4 at the moment is one of the fastest men on the track. These drivers have got a lot to kind of process in this quali stage. We've got 3 laps, and they've got to get it hooked up, haven't they? Because there's a lot of drivers at the moment who have got off tracks. There's only a few that actually haven't got off tracks at the moment. But they've got to kind of get this hooked up, because otherwise this circuit isn't going to allow you to go for another run, is it? You've got to get it right on your first one.
Well, you do have to kind of set off on the right foot, certainly. But what we've seen in these Radicals, and it's certainly less of a thing in the SR10, but it still certainly is. The SR8 was really good for this, but the SR10 is still the same. You do kind of just have to wind this car up a little bit. You do kind of almost get stronger as you go on in these qualifying sessions. If you just, you're certainly right. If you go off spectacularly on the first lap and everything, then things are really going to be out of whack, and you're going to really struggle. But you do just kind of need to wind it up a little bit. We saw those practice times. We were well into the 2:08s. These first lap times here, with the tyres still not quite in the right place, the car's still not quite in the right place for these drivers. We're still in the mid 2:09s. There's at least half a second in this racetrack at the moment. There's at least half a second in these drivers, in these cars. So while it is important to kind of start off on the right foot on the opening lap, you do need to just wind the pace up a little bit and just and keep going quicker and quicker and quicker until we get to the very end. This final lap time with seconds remaining, the third and final lap time these drivers get, really is the most important, and that's where pole is going to be won, really, especially considering and looking at how close these times are right now.
Absolutely. Mike Bousson on a 209.42. Simon Edwards there on a 209.43. So he's literally 1/100th of a second back. Luke Maxwell on a 209.57. Paul Clark on a 209.78. So we are expecting the times to come down over the next lap or so. Guys, as we said, they have got to kind of get this car going at the moment. It does take a while. They've got to get that first lap banker almost under their belt before they can push on the second lap, because the worst thing they want to happen on the second lap is they don't want to be pushing it and they haven't done enough on the first, because at the end of the day, if you do not push on the second lap, you've got no hope of setting a decent time. And you don't want to be down the order because you've taken it too easy on your first lap. We're just keeping an eye here on Simon Edwards, who is currently going through the bus stop as he's coming across the line very, very shortly. And what sort of time can Simon get on the board? He's gone into pole on a 209.23, fastest time overall, but he not some of the fastest sectors there, Ewan, and that's quite a surprise, really.
Well, this is the thing with getting faster and faster as the qualifying session goes on. But even then, even after 3 laps at Spa, which is quite a long time, these cars not quite up to full operating pace, and so we might not get down to the practice times that we saw a little bit earlier on. Mike Bousson has gotten the closest so far, and Luke Maxwell, despite being only a few hundredths of a second off of Simon Edwards on that first lap time there, only did a 2:15 on that last one. He did make a mistake, and quite a big one, throughout that previous lap, so he's had to kind of regroup a little bit, and he'll have to go again. But you can be sure his final lap time won't be quite as good as it otherwise could have been now, because of that second lap time that wasn't quite as good anymore. So it's going to be difficult for him, but Maxwell hasn't seemed quite as strong as Simon Edwards so far, judging by the practice times, what we've seen so far. It does seem like the reigning champion struggling to get on terms with the 3-time champion, those two drivers who were fighting all through last season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's always good when you get returning champions, because the runner-up is always going to want to try and go out and go after the victor. It's just the way it is. It's just the way people are throughout their racing. So, you know, I think at the moment, it's going to be leading. I think this season is just going to bring something special, and I wouldn't be surprised if we've got 2 or 3 drivers going down into Nords that can win this, mate. I got a funny feeling with all of these great drivers on track, it could be absolutely incredible.
I think certainly with Simon Edwards and Luke Maxwell, given how evenly matched they were throughout last season, with 3 drop rounds on the cards as well, and now increasing from 2, which we had at the start of season 2. We've gone to 3 drop rounds out of the 12 races now, and so that really does increase the probability of the field staying close together. I think certainly it's going to be between Maxwell and Edwards in terms of those lap times, as Simon Edwards just go ever so slightly quicker again, although not quite as quick as Luke Maxwell.
Maxwell on a 209.06, Edwards on a 209.19. So Maxwell there is topping pole currently at the moment, and we've only got 45 seconds remaining of this session. So 45 seconds remaining of this session, guys. So be aware, if they haven't done it by now, they haven't done it at all, and I think that's going to be the thing for some of these drivers. There's still drivers that haven't got times on the board. Dominic Lang-Webb, however, he is out on track at the moment. He is coming down, dropping down into Rivage. Dave Kirkman, Graham Brown, Phil Glover hasn't got a time, and neither has Scott Lear. So it's going to be an interesting one to see how this one all materialises within the last, well, 10 seconds. You and they've got no time at all, really.
No, the session will end, I believe, when the timer runs down. Some championships run it a little bit differently in terms of letting them run after the flag, but we don't hit. And I was just fearing slightly then that we changed the rules through different season, but we haven't. Yeah, the 3 laps maximum just about gotten in for all of them. But yeah, good qualifying session, and sets us up well for what's going to be a good race. Yeah,
so here is the grid there. Luke Maxwell is on pole, Simon Edwards second, Mike Bousson third, Paul Clark in 4th, Paul LeMay 5th, Paul Crabb 6th, Ben Underdown in 7th, Michael LeMay in 8th, Oliver Ettridge in 9th, David Rolliston in 10th, Austin Greatorex in 11th, Colin Wynn in 12th place there. So Colin Wynn in 12th, Jamie Bird in 13th, Damien G 14th, Darrell Taylor 15th, Martina Ward 16th, Dave Dawson in 17th, Phil Glover 18th, Dominic Langweb in 19th, Graham Brown 20th, Scott Lear 21st, Dave Kirkman in 22nd position there as well. So, yeah, it's. Do you think regarding this, though, it's going to be tougher for the guys further back, but they have got, I suppose, that long draft running up into Lacombe that they can make moves almost, but they don't want to do anything too overly crazy, do they?
No, absolutely. You want to make up positions on lap one, of course, but you don't want to throw your entire race away either. So you've got to try and find that balance. You've got to try and get that in order without causing too many problems. So that's going to be the hope here, but that's why you almost fear for the pole sitter here in this race, because Luke Maxwell is going to get drafted on a whole lot coming up this straight here.
Absolutely. Austin Gutorix come to the grid. Waiting for Scott Lear, Dave Kirkman as well. But the green light, the red lights are going to be coming on now, guys. We got 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. And we are go for round 1 here at Spa for the Radical Race Season SR10 live from Spa. And currently at the moment is Simon Edwards and Luke Maxwell going side by side, dropping down, and it's Edwards coming out. Currently at the moment he's gone from second to first as they drop down into El Rouge and Radion for the first time tonight. And currently at the moment there has been a lot of overtakes, Ewan, but we haven't had any dramas, as we can see where that is Paul LeMay going off to the right hand side, and that would definitely be a slowdown.
It certainly will, but it's a great start from Simon Edwards to go around the outside like that. He was positioned that way, and Luke Maxwell took a very tight line through La Source there. He kind of got himself in the foot a little bit because it really disadvantaged his exit going down towards Rouge and Radion, that famous section, of course. And in the end, Simon Edwards was at no match really for Luke Maxwell, who had to give up the position quite early on. But thankfully, it has been a relatively clean start by everybody. I think pretty much everybody's gotten away cleanly after that one. But it's been a very good start from Simon Edwards here now. Judging by those practice and qualifying times we've seen, these two are not going to get too far away from one another, though, over the coming 10 laps.
No, we've got Mike Bousson as these guys are heading around Pouan now. Going down into Fagnier, we got on board with Bousson in third. In front of us currently at the moment is Luke Maxwell, and in front of that is Simon Edwards. Now we've had Colin Wynn go off track. Currently at the moment it's probably one wide. That is one of the only things with Spa. The off tracks are quite tight. So we will not probably looking at showing you every off track, as we can see Luke Maxwell there getting a big old slide on in that SR10. Simon Edwards would have been off track up front as well. Heading down Blanchimont now, we're above 150 miles an hour. We're under the toe on Mike Bousson. We're going to be looking at going left. Are we going to make this move into the bus stop? We go left, we tighten it up, we run a little bit wide. He's got to keep his foot on the gas. You've got your off track, son. You might as well just stay on there. And we're on the brakes, and he's not going to make it into bus stop this time around you. And however, Luke Maxwell did have an absolute horrible entry as we start off on lap 2.
It was really telling, actually, from Mike Bousson there. The dirty air really affecting through Blanchimont, something we don't see very often, but at such a high speed, high commitment corner, it really was very apparent there that it was very difficult indeed. But Simon Edwards has certainly had a very nice start here, I think it's fair to say. Not only has he gained a position into the lead, he's also nearly pulled a second on Luke Maxwell, who's struggling to get away very quickly in this race, struggling to get up to speed quite quickly, as we're seeing from Simon Edwards. Not entirely sure quite what that's down to, really, but it's the way it's going right now. Single file still up between those two, but the battle for fourth is starting to heat up.
Oh yeah, Paul Crabb and Paul Clark are literally nose to tail as these guys are dropping down into reverse for lap 2. Your current leader is Simon Edwards. It is not Maxwell at the top of your screen. Let's give you a refresh and make sure that that will come on absolutely correctly, because there's nothing more frustrating than that. But it is, there you go, it has corrected itself. Simon Edwards is currently your leader. Battles all the way through. Paul LeMay has been off track quite a few times, and that's probably why he's dropped himself all the way down. He's minus 15 on his grid slot, and let's have a look currently at what has been going on with Paul LeMay. Oh, at the Coombe, straight across the grass. That's not going to do you any favours whatsoever there, Paul. You're going to have to try and get that car back under control there here tonight as well. The gainers are on your left-hand side, guys. You can see the main gainer tonight, Austin Gretorix, is up free at the moment. He is currently your highest gainer on the grid. And I'm used to seeing Austin in a P Cup. So when I saw him in a Radical, I thought that was a bit of a surprise. But yeah, Austin Gretorix there doing an absolutely stellar job. Currently closing down Oliver Ettridge in 7th place. What do we think? Right, we've got 10 laps. We're in an SR10. And what we don't want to do is go too early, but we also don't want to go too late. And there's Oliver Ettridge has been off as well. He went off at the bus stop. We'll have a look back and see how that one materialized here right about now as we're coming down into the bus stop there. We start going, making our move on the left-hand side. Oh, he's dived to the end. He's not stopping that. No offence there, buddy, but that is too late on the brakes for Oliver Ettridge, and that unfortunately puts him off again. And so poor old Oliver there not having the greatest start. 10 laps, Ewan. How do we approach this, do you think? Do we think we go after it too early, or do we think, as we can see Mike Booth on there, battling past Luke Maxwell? Where would you make your move? You know, what sort of stage of the race would you be looking at trying to get this done?
Well, it depends really where you are on the circuit. If you're a little bit or where you are in the order, I should say. If you're a lot further down, then you need to make up positions as quickly as possible, and it doesn't really matter when you do them. You've just got to try and get those positions whenever and wherever you can. Further up towards the front, it's a little bit more tactical than that, and I thought it was going to be a bit more tactical than it currently is. Currently, right now, Simon Edwards is just giving everyone a show of his pace here. And nobody's got an answer for the moment. I was expecting more of a tactical battle with Maxwell and Bousson just sitting in behind for the most of the race, and then when we get into the final third, the final quarter of the race, 3 or 4 laps or so, and we could really start to see some moves, some signs of life maybe from the front group. But as I said, it looks like Simon Edwards is just trying to alleviate that situation entirely. He doesn't want this to come down to the final few laps. He doesn't want that tactical game where you've got to use your racecraft more than anything. He just wants to use his pace right now, and he is doing quite effectively.
Oh, yeah, Martina Ward nearly ending up at the back of Dave Dowson, chased down by Darrell Taylor. This is your battle down there for 14th, 15th and 16th. You see on your track map there are little pockets of battles. We've got Simon Edwards away at the moment. I will say one thing though, Simon Edwards has racked up the off track, so he's going to have to be a little bit careful as we see Darrell Taylor clear Martina Ward there as these guys coming down into the bus stop for the end of lap 4. Oh, no. Dave Dowson gone round at the bus stop. That put Darrell Taylor in as well. And unfortunately for them guys, that was contact between them. So they are now going to have to assess the damage and see what the situation is as Dave Dowson spins the car and poor Darrell Taylor straight into the side as we go back up front with Mike Bousson and Luke Maxwell. Maxwell's got to be getting in within that tow, and he's in there at the moment. Is he going to be looking at sending it down into Lacombe here? Not this time around. I think he might have been a little bit further back there, Ewan, and he couldn't quite get the move that he kind of wanted to do, didn't he? Because he has got to be sensible, you know, and they've got to be within a certain position, and I think he's just got to be playing the game.
Both of these two have got to be sensible right now, and it all depends whether they really do still believe that they can win this race, because if they do, then they need to kind of get together, work together to get back towards Simon Edwards. Are they going to accept the fact that they just haven't got enough pace here today to get back towards the three-time champion or not? I don't think they are going to. Well, I say that. I do think they almost have kind of accepted it at this point, because you can already see them fighting there. They've really got to decide here, are they going to work together to try and get the win here, or are they just going to fight between themselves over second place? Because Simon Edwards is very, very quick right now, and they've got a little bit of a gap to the battle for fourth, which is also, they're all kind of slowing each other down a little bit as well, so that's helping them out. It's all getting closer back here, although not for fourth place.
No, this is Austin Gretorix and Paul Crabb, the battle for fifth on the right-hand side. You can see it there, guys, as well. Currently at the moment, there is the sector times as well to see what they have been up to. And at the moment, you can see Gretorix has been closer and closer and closer. It's probably closest now than he has been previously. So he's going to have to now really try and pick his place as we keep an eye on the lap times. And currently Gretorix there has closed right up on Paul Crabb, but faster again by 4 tenths on a 2:10.214. His fastest lap of the race at the end of lap 4 as we start off on our 5th lap. Gretorix is something of an enigma to me in the Radical. You know, I've seen him in other series where he's been driving P-Cups and things like that, and I think from his point of view in this car, you know, he seems to be quite handling it quite well. There doesn't seem to be much sort of issues for Gretorix as we can just see him go past Paul Crabb there and is now going to try and set on his way for Paul Clark. You know, what has Gretorix got to kind of do here? Because he's got Paul Crabb tucked up behind him. Ben Underdown's not too far away. He wants to try and close down Clark in front of him. It's a tough one when you're fighting, Ewan. I think that's what I'm probably trying to say. It's a tough one when you're fighting in general because you can't move forward if you're looking behind you.
It is very difficult to really put any kind of pace in when you are fighting like this. We were talking about it in that battle for second, where if they fight too much, they're not going to be able to catch the leader. It's the same thing up and down the field, and it's what's really allowed Paul Clark to get away from Gretorix and Paul Crabb and Ben Underdown as well. The battling that they've been having for 5th place has just allowed that little bit of a margin in the battle for 4th. However, Gretorix looks very quick right now, it has to be said, and it looks like Clark is going to get reeled in pretty quickly here. Well, he already has been. The gap dips below a second once again, so he is being reeled in just a little bit once again as we come up to the halfway stage here in this race now. Still plenty of time, and Gretorix will certainly have his sights set on 4th place, even with a little bit of a gap to close right now, still about a second.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen Graham Brown has been adventuring himself off into somewhere in parts unknown in Spa. This is the run down into Lacombe. He comes in way too hot. There is a blinking car. I'm not quite sure. That's not going to help. That is not going to help. No, that's not going to help. Was that Dave? No, it wasn't Dave Dawson. That was Darrell Taylor. Darrell Taylor there was blinking and then put Graham Brown off. And unfortunately for Graham Brown, well, what can you do with that, Ewan? You can't really do a lot when somebody is blinking in front of you like that. You're just presuming and hoping that he's there.
It's a big distraction, and it almost certainly caused that spin there, as Austin Gretorix is trying to not cause one of his own right now and get up into 4th place around the outside at Lecombe. Going to be pretty difficult, but the two of them going to give each other some nice racing room, and in the end Gretorix able to easily get through really. Paul Clark gave him plenty of room and didn't really have the pace to fight back at that stage, so he's now finally lost that 4th place, and maybe he will start to tumble even further from there on in, because when you're in some of these groups, sometimes once one position goes, or one car goes past you I should say, then quite a few go on past you sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. I think when from a perspective where we are driving and you know, obviously been in the car, I've done endurances and done stuff like that, it's kind of getting your head back in the game, and I think that's one of the important things. What Paul Clark's got to do is get his head back into the game. You know, we can see Michael LeMay and Oliver Ettridge having an absolutely barnstorming battle. They were locked in a freeway with Martina Ward. Martina Ward has dropped off a little bit currently at the moment, about 1.4 seconds. But these guys have not stopped here going at each other, Michael LeMay and Oliver Ettridge. This is the battle down for 14th place on the grid currently. Michael LeMay does have his brother Paul in front of him as well, so it's got to be trying to chase down, because at the end of the day, you want bragging rights over a family member, and especially if it's your brother. You know what I mean? You want to be able to give him a little bit of a stick, you know, and say ha 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 to you as you beat him. But at the moment, he's got to try and say to Oliver Ettridge, because Ettridge is closing right up at the moment. He's going to be making that move into the bus stop. LeMay's taking the inside line What's Ettridge going to do? They're going to run round too wide in the bus stop. Ettridge doesn't make it. LeMay gives him room. Is Ettridge going to get further in front? He does this time around as they're running down into La Source. LeMay is not giving up, guys. He's coming back too wide. He's on the left-hand side in the blue, red and white, and he's been looking at making his move back into La Source. Oh, this is a battle that's going to roll all the way on. Ewan right the way down into Lacombe.
Yeah, it certainly is. Ettridge should be able to get through here, though, and get away. He has done now on the run down towards Eau Rouge and Radion. He's just going to be careful that we don't see slipstreaming back once again now for LeMay, because that's very much what you can see up towards Lacombe with the long Camel straight, although it doesn't quite look like the red car behind has enough straight line speed. It didn't look like it in the first half, but now in the second we're seeing side by side. Not quite far enough alongside, though, I don't think, and too wide. Ollie Ettridge is going to very much take that position, and given his pace, given what we saw from him last season, it's a top 10 in the standings for him at the end. I think he'll be absolutely fine to get away and maybe even march towards the top 10 in this race, although he's running out of laps.
Yeah, he definitely is. At the moment, we can see here with Paul Clark, is now under attack from Paul Crabb. He's got to be careful. He doesn't want to be one of these drivers sliding down the order. He wants to try and maintain that position. And some interesting facts about Paul Clark that me and you were discussing off broadcast, Ewan, before we started. Now, we sent the form out and we asked the drivers some information about him, and they turned around and said, you know, one of the questions was how long you've been sim racing. Now, me personally, 2020, that was me, 2 years. Paul Clark, sim racing for 37 years at the age of 54. He started on an F3 simulation called Revs, which came out in 1984 for the BBC Micro, and then they went on and did an F1 GP sequel. But unbelievable that somebody's sim racing for nearly 3/4 of my life, which just seems insane from Paul Clark there.
It's quite a good portion of his life as well, to be fair. Yeah, it's a very good effort. But yeah, you just imagine the change he's seen over time. We're not trying to make him feel old or anything, by the way. But there we are. He's very experienced at this kind of thing, and out there at the moment. But yeah, my goodness, it's quite a story, and exactly why we ask these drivers these things, because you can get some answers like that. It's great to try and find out where these guys started from and so on.
Yeah, exactly. I think I started on the old pole position game. There was more of a square block of a car with two little bits of rubber sticking out the side. And that was probably where my whole driving career began. Way back when I was a wee nipper. A long time ago. So let's not get into that. I will say Paul Crabb has just driven amazingly to hold amazingly to hold back Crabb going up down Camel. I thought he was under the cosh there because Crabb was well inside that 2/10 draft bracket that we're looking at the moment for this evening, and he's managed to hold on. The problem is for Clark is Crabb is still coming. He's not letting up. He's not giving him any time to sit back and chill, and I think that's gonna be for, you know, Crabb's got to be relentless here, hasn't he? He's got barely 2 laps remaining. He's just got to go at Clark and either try and pressure him into a mistake or try and make that move. But if he's not close enough, Ewan, down through Blanchimont, the bus stop, he can't get that run through La Source and up through El Rouge and Radion. So it's really as a catch-22 at the moment for Crabb.
I think he's got to remember that he does have time on his side here. We're just about to go on to 3 laps to go for these guys. Simon Edwards already across the line, so 3 laps to go for these two drivers. When you look at the gap further up the road to 4th place, I think you've got to accept the fact that Greatorex is gone here, and this is basically the fight between Paul Crabb and Paul Clark for 5th place. It's going to be between those two. It could even see a bit of involvement from Underdown as well, even though he has been losing a few car lengths in the last few laps or so. These two have just got to remember the time is on their side. There's no rush here to be able to make your way through for Paul Crabb. He's got to bide his time just a little bit, and that's exactly what he did down towards Eau Rouge and Radion there. If that was the final lap, then maybe he would have chanced going side by side up the hill.
Yeah, I don't know from a driver's point of view, and I think this is the... Oh, God, Clark shut the door. He cut off Crab's nose faster than a plastic surgeon doing a nose job on Kardashian, I'll tell you that much. He literally shut that door on him, turned around and said no. The problem with that is it's giving him a very slow exit out of Lacombe, and that's allowed Crab to come up running around the outside of Ravage. Can he make it stick as they head round the second phase of Ravage? If I was Clark, I'd be looking to try to close that door on No Name. He's got to get this rundown put on before it all just goes wrong. But what I was going into before all that madness just, commenced there is, from a racing driver's point of view, from my own point of view, I'd be sitting in the car by now going, oh my God, we're on lap 9, I've got this one and one more, and I've got to try and get the job done. And knowing me, I'd probably end up in a wall. Ewan, I've got to be honest, because I'd get all a little bit too excited for my own good. And then I think, right, I've got to go and sit back and get this done. I've got to get this done, and then I go and mess it up. Crab can't afford to do that, can he? And he's dropped off a little bit in the first two, in sector 2 and 3, but he can't allow himself to get too sort of anxious about it as we're coming down now into lap 10.
He's got to, he's got a little bit less time than I thought. I say that now, so he does have to start thinking about where he's going to make this move. But I think if he times his run a little bit better, then he will be able to get through here. If you remember out of La Source last lap, he was really close to the back of the car in front. He was really close to the back of Paul Clark, so it was pretty difficult for him to go anyway. He couldn't really get that slingshot up the Kemmel Straight. So this time around, I think he's got to bide his time a little bit. He's got to hang back a little bit and then off of Eau Rouge and Radio, really get that slingshot and then go through up on the run up towards the Combe. Once again, he's got a really good run out of La Source, but there's just nowhere to use it here.
No, I would not be sending it side by side on the last lap at Spa. Up through Eau Rouge and Radio, it is so easy to get out of control in these SR10s. He's going to take a big dose there. Did he hit a big dose of a slowdown though? That could be the problem, because he took quite a lot of that chicane. Is he going to be able to make his move, or is he going to be able to just basically try and pull off? If he did get a slowdown, he's got to try and drop it off at a certain point. The problem is that for Crab, where's he going to be able to drop that off? Because he could have made that move. That's got to have been something on that chicane, because he took so much of that left-hand curb at the top of the hill, and he really, Ewan, he was in prime position to get that position going down Kemmel.
Was, but then again, doesn't want to risk it all going for this position here. Stick plays still a decent start to the season. He won't want to throw that all away, although judging by some of the gaps behind, he probably could have gone for it, maybe been a little bit more aggressive. However, just decided that maybe he didn't really want to do that towards Lacombe. As Luke Maxwell goes for a spin. Dear me, he's been falling off the pace towards the end of this race, having started in pole, gone down to second, gone down to third, and now he's down even further. Those tyres are absolutely cooked at the end of this race, and we have seen this on one or two occasions from Luke Maxwell. He does tend to do this on occasion, and I'm afraid it's cost him a whole load of positions today.
Yeah, he's just dropped on the final lap of the race. He's dropped down from third all the way down to seventh for Maxwell, and that is such a shame. We're going to pick up on Simon Edwards. He's going to be winning, coming through, taking the checkered flag, taking round 1 of the Radical Race Series here tonight from Spa. Take a bow, Simon Edwards. You have just won the opening round here at the beginning of this season. Mike Bousson in second. And I will say, Austin Greatorex, you got a gifted third there, bud, but an absolute stellar drive there to get that third place, up 8 positions by the end of that race. There is a battle here with LeMay and Ward as these guys are coming down into the bus stop on the final lap. Oh, Ward's on your left, May's on your right. Can Ward get the run? She's going to be trying to look at her going on the left-hand side. May's coming down to the line, but Ward's coming down to the... Oh! May there got that. Paul LeMay, you lucky, lucky man. Martina Ward was absolutely coming after you then. And, well, that was just an absolute incredible ending here tonight. And here we can bring you up the results from race 1. Round 1 here, done and dusted, and it's Simon Edwards taking the victory. Mike Bousson in second, Austin Greatorex in third, Paul Clark in 4th place there, Paul Crabb in 5th, Ben Underdown in 6th, Luke Maxwell, I really do feel sorry for you. coming into that last lap in third place, dropping all the way down to 7th there. Austin coming into chat there. What a race. Absolutely barnstormer. Jamie Bird in 8th, Colin Wynn in 9th, David Rolliston 10th, Oliver Ettridge in 11th, Michael LeMay in 12th, Dominic Langweb in 13th, Paul LeMay 14th, Martina Ward. Paul LeMay, you are one lucky little man there, young sir, I'll tell you what. Holding on to that position from Martina Ward. Damien G down in 16th, Darryl Taylor 17th, Phil Glover 18th, Dave Dowson 19th, Graham Brown 20th, Scott Lear 21st, and Dave Kirkman down there in 22nd place. If we're wondering why Damien G plummeted down the order, this would be it. Here he is around the far last corner. Oh, too much gas. And around he goes. So that is what happened to Damien G. Colin Wynn, phew, he says there as well. Unbelievable from you guys. Austin Greatorex is sat in the waiting room for an interview. So let's bring in Austin now, and he can tell us all about his amazing 8-grid gain there as well. So let's go here as well. So let's drop in Austin Greatorex. Austin, how are you, young sir?
I'm good, James. How are you?
Oh, mate, I've just watched you. See, I just watched you in an SR10 gain 8 places and finish in 3rd place and managing to avoid poor old Luke Maxwell, who lost it on our last lap.
Yeah, that was hard work, that was. So I did about 2 laps practice before qualifying. I had no setup, so I'm using a Sebring setup from someone that made it in the league last year, and it just grew stronger throughout the race. So I could see me catching him. And then obviously once I was in draft distance, the pressure was on Luke, and I can only feel for him.
Oh, mate, yeah. At the end of the day, losing it at that point on the circuit, on the final lap, is always tough anyway, isn't it? Let's be real about it. And, you know, he did drive a stellar race. He did start dropping down the order. It looked like his tyres were just completely done by the end of it, mate. I've got to be honest. And he dropped all the way down the order. But for you, though, up 8 positions. That's not a bad start to round 1.
No, it's not, and I hope I can make all the rounds. Obviously, I race in another league that you know about on Thursdays. This just finished, so I should be free, and it'll be the first time I can complete every round on a Thursday. So it'll be interesting to see how the season goes.
Well, absolutely. As I was saying earlier on, I'm used to seeing you driving around in a P Cup, mate, and I got the pleasure of not being able to say, poor Austin Greatorex making a mistake, because you smashed it tonight, mate. Up 8, 3rd place.
Yeah, it makes a change, doesn't it? Broadcasting on me not making a mistake.
Even out of your dog not joining you on your lap, eh?
No, not this evening. He's asleep on the bed.
There you go, mate. Austin Greatorex, thank you so much for joining us. And congratulations on your 3rd place there, buddy.
Thank you very much, James. Well done to Simon and Mike.
No worries, you take care. All right, so there we go. And that was Austin there as well. We got a few jumping in here. We got our overall race winner, Simon Edwards, in chat. Simon, how are you, sir?
I'm good, James. And good to hear your voice on this first broadcast.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and saying hello. I've got to be honest, though, mate. That was like a Sunday drive, wasn't it? Walk in the park.
No.
Come on, entertain me for a minute, mate. Entertain me for a minute. I know it wasn't, dude. I've driven around here in the SR10. I know it wasn't. Them opening laps are scary. But you just, as the race went on, you just made it seem so simple.
Yeah, the first laps, I was pushing as fast as I dared. I could have done another couple of tenths a lap, but I knew the end laps would just catch me out if I just burned those rears up. So it was a balance between, can I get away from Luke and eventually Mike, keep pushing, and how much I'm going to have left at the end. But luckily I had enough. But another lap and I was going to fall off. I was just on the edge of falling off those rear tyres on that last lap.
Yeah, Luke Maxwell unfortunately had fallen off, mate. He fell off a cliff and unfortunately went from 3rd, finished in the end in 7th because his tyres went off around the latter part of the last lap. So it has been known to go off in the SR10, and you know I've seen a lot of chatter about the rear wheel degradation as the race just goes on and on and on and on and on. And it's shown again there, didn't it? But you know, from an opening lap point of view, top of El Rouge Radion, the car isn't it's not super glue, is it, sticking onto the track at that point? It's just a matter of trying to keep it on track, isn't it, on that point, on lap one?
Yeah, in practice, I'd spun it a couple of times at the top of Radion on the first lap, just as you go over the rise.
Yep.
So I took a chance, I took it full throttle, and I sort of straightened it without one X in it, and let myself drift to the right, and luckily it stuck.
That's always good, though, isn't it? Luckily, it stuck, Simon. And I will say now, Colin Wynn has just said in YouTube chat, Simon makes every lap look simple.
Yeah, I might make it look simple. I had to change driving halfway through, so I was short shifting. I was doing almost every corner a gear up. It's the only way I knew that those rears would go. So it wasn't easy, but I'd practiced that, so I knew what I was going to do. And I tried to ignore Mike behind me.
Yeah,
I just checked him once a lap and no more.
Yeah, no, you definitely cannot rear wing mirror drive it there on that one when you got Mike Bousson behind you. But look, Simon, congratulations on the opening round victory. Is there anyone you'd love to give a shout out to this evening?
I'm going to give a shout out to my mum, who's not been very well. She's getting a bit better. She's in her late 70s and has not been very well. So I'm going to give a shout out to my mum for bringing me into this world.
Oh, there you go. Is it Mrs. Edwards, before I say that and turn to answer?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It is, yep. So where to go, everybody here from JPB and the Radical Race Series. Get well soon, Mrs. Edwards. Come on, you can do it. Stay strong. But Simon, congratulations on your victory, mate. And thank you so much for popping into the booth.
Thank you. And I'll look forward to watching the broadcast back.
Oh, definitely. Right, let's grab a hold of the one, the only, Mr. Mike Bousson in the booth with me this evening. Mike, second place, buddy. Come on, you've got to be happy with that.
Yeah, pretty happy for the first race of the season. I felt that I had the pace to win, but I thought my strategy to just hang behind Luke sort of just detached me enough from Simon and just couldn't really push without overheating the tyres a little bit too much. So I sort of tried, but couldn't get it this time. I'll learn for next time.
Yeah, but look, at the end of the day, mate, we've seen, I think you did the right thing, and I'm not going to, be anything detrimental against you there, but we did see Luke Maxwell plummet off that cliff at the end, and he went from 3rd to 7th, mate, due to tyres just going absolutely shot. So, I think, to be fair, the fact that you've kept it on track, the fact that the retyres held up, and the fact that you've managed to take second place, I don't think you've had a bad round one.
Oh, I'll take that, because compared to last season, it probably was race 7 before I actually got any points on the board, I expect. So that is a good start.
It's a good, solid start, mate. And look, go to bed and smile about the fact that you've just done a stellar job. 10 laps at Spa there, buddy. So
I can't go to bed. I've got to watch this great new commentator that's taken over. So I've got to watch that first, haven't I?
Oh, yeah, Ewan is talking about you. He's not talking about me.
Obviously.
Not even new.
There we go, Mike. Mike, anybody you want to give a shout out to this evening?
No, because I'm unprepared. I'll think of somebody next time.
Oh, all right, Mike. Well, I don't want to see you in the booth now for at least a few rounds, mate. I can't have you in every week. People will start talking about favouritisms.
Shout out to the Team Radline, my new appointments.
Oh, yeah?
And,
where's John?
We'll go with that. John, he probably just, I don't know.
Probably asleep in the corner.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows with John?
He probably just missed it.
There you go, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us in the booth, buddy, and congratulations on your second place.
Brilliant. See you soon.
See you later, mate.
Bye-bye.
Right, let's get Phil Glover in to the booth. Phil, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. How are you, young sir?
I'm very well, thanks. Especially as you call me young.
Well, I don't like to be detrimental, Phil. Everybody's young. I'm sure if I look back through your information, you're probably on, a few years older than me. But look, at the end of the day, everybody's young because we all play a racing simulator, and I get a great opportunity to chat about some amazing racing. So as far as I'm concerned, we're all young, whether that's mentally or physically. There, buddy.
Yeah, agree with that.
Go with that. Phil, how was your race? 18th place. Was it eventful?
Well, I had a few problems at the start, so I think I only got one qualifying lap in, and that was the first lap I did. So that doesn't help. It's better to be a little bit closer up in the pack, isn't it? But I ran 4 wing with 4 hold wing with only one dive plane. So I think that was probably my downfall. As usual, I tinker too much.
Yeah, but I think the thing is we only tinker until we feel we've got it right. And if you never feel you got it right, you're just constantly tinkering, aren't you? And do you find, though, that you can over-tinker the car?
Absolutely. Simon says just leave it as it is, and he's probably right. But yeah, I guess if I'd have been up in the middle of the pack, that advantage of wing would have helped. But being further back, I didn't get any tow from anybody. Having said that, I think I kept it on the black stuff, so that's always positive, and finished where I started.
Well, if you haven't had any car contact, and judging by your off-track count, you only had 1 throughout the race.
Yeah. So well, it's a long season, isn't it? It's only the opening round, so hopefully we can prove from here. If you start off really good, the only way is down.
Exactly, Phil. And your way is only way is up, young sir. We're going into Okayama Fall next week. Do you like that circuit?
Yeah, it's a circuit that's been around a long time, isn't it? Most people have had a lot of experience on that track. So yeah, I don't mind it at all. I tend to like the smaller tracks, to be honest.
Well, there you go, Phil. Looking at the only way is up for Phil Glover there, young sir. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to, Phil?
Well, obviously all the organisers and of course you guys for broadcasting. Great work.
No worries at all, Phil. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for joining us in the booth.
Yeah, see you next week.
See you later. Bye. Well, Ewan, we've come to the end of the first race. We've had a stellar race. Simon Edwards just, made it look easy. He went out in front. He's telling us it wasn't easy. Mike Bousson chased him down. But we've got to feel for Luke Maxwell, haven't we? That last lap for Luke was just... He must have been... I don't know. I would have been throwing kittens out the car, I'll tell you.
Yeah, not what he wanted, of course, but it just will give him the motivation to come back next week, of course, and do that a little bit better. I think it's just really shown to us that this car, can be really dangerous on these tyres. Particularly, you can really shred through them very quickly. We saw this be a particular problem at Phillip Island, where you've got those really loads of high load corners, and the front tyres for Luke Maxwell, indeed, towards the end of that race, really went away, and he dropped from first to fourth in a matter of laps in that one as well. So it's something that these drivers are going to have to watch out for throughout this season. We've got a number of those circuits where the load on the tyres is going to be really quite large. Thinking a long time into the future to Mosport, 20 laps around there is going to be a long race, and it's going to be a very high load on the tyres, that one. But more in terms of the near future, in about a month's time, we're going to Watkins Glen. That won't be easy either on the tyres, but for all of these races, they're going to have to keep an eye on it, and it's going to be a story throughout the season with this one of the new challenges that the SR10 has brought to us. But as we went on with last season, it got less and less of an issue. So I wonder if that will happen this season as well.
Yeah, well, there you go, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I do want to shout out something to Damien G. I haven't eaten yet. Well, Damien, get your dinner in, son. You're supposed to do that before you start. Come on, ritual before every single race there as well. So I've been James Parfitt. I've been joined in the booth by Ewan O'Leary. And I'd just like to say, as always, guys, from myself and Ewan here in the back, you all take care. Have a great week. And you never know, we might see you on the track sometime. Good night.